Hello everybody, thanks for tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather through towards the end of June and see whether it is going to settle down as I was hoping and thought it might do. I'm not all that sure about it now. It does look so we will have a few days of better weather next week, but it's not really looking like a proper build of high pressure. Before I get on with the video, I just want to talk about the advertising. There usually be a video ad overlaying my weather videos here at GazWeatherVids.com. Please play those video ads because you'll be supporting GazWeatherVids.com by doing this. Now, I want to start off with today's weather. Got a deep area of low pressure just to the south of Ireland, actually sitting over Ireland, and that's bringing a lot of heavy rain up to the north of the country and tightly packed ice bars, so it's quite windy. We've got showers following along behind that main area of rain, so it's windy and showery and it's quite unsettled. But if you've been reading in your newspaper or seeing on the TV news that this is a 1 in 50 year storm, well, it certainly isn't. I don't know where they get all this rubbish from. It isn't a 1 in 50 year storm. In fact, it's not even a 1 in 1 week storm, because last Friday we had an even deeper area of low pressure that brought even wetter and even windier weather across the country. So where that's come from, a 1 in 50 year event, I've got no idea, but it's not right, and just goes to show you don't take the what you read in the papers and see on the telly too seriously. They're out to sell papers and make money, and a lot of what you read is absolute rubbish. So going ahead to the using video, and we're going to start off with the 500 millibars height anomaly charts as we usually do for these videos. Now 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, is quite an important area in the atmosphere because that's where you have high pressure and low pressure developing. And we can see, but on these charts we've got these orange colours here to the north and the east of the country. That's indicating that high pressure is trying to set up generally to the north and the east of the British Isles, but we've still got weak pressure around the British Isles itself, and we're probably still bringing the weather in off the Atlantic with this. It's not really settling down properly. I thought that by this stage of 8 to 10 days time, going to the end of June, we'll probably be seeing a big build of high pressure setting up around British Isles. It's not really happening. If you have a look at the GFS height anomaly chart, we can see that again we have got above average heights, well above average heights to the north of the British Isles around Greenland and Iceland, but really the Atlantic is still driving the pattern here. The pressure is still quite weak, the height anomalies are still quite weak over the British Isles, so the Atlantic still generally is driving the pattern. Now, if we have a look at the ensemble from the GFS, well, quite difficult to talk about ensembles, but really what you need to know with this is that these lines here are temperature, the lines or the spikes on the bottom are precipitation. Now, at the moment the temperatures are below average, but average is this red line here. The temperature lines are below that red line, so we are below average with temperatures at the moment, have been for most of June. They do kick up above average once we get through to around the 22nd or the 23rd of June, so those temperatures will lift up a bit next week. We are going to bring some warmer weather in, but the spikes don't really disappear. Now, if we're building a big ridge of high pressure in across the country, you would expect these spikes, these precipitation spikes, to go. They don't go. We do keep some precipitation going throughout the ensemble. In fact, if anything, the precipitation picks up towards the end of the ensemble. So we're not really settling the weather down as you would expect with a proper area of high pressure. I think we're heading into much more of a trough ridge quite type pattern. So having a look at the temperature anomalies for the next week, Friday the 15th of June to Friday the 22nd of June, well, we're below average across the British Isles, but I think that's mainly skewered by the weather in the next few days. It will warm up next week, as we just saw on that ensemble. And for precipitation, well, above normal precipitation for the north, below normal precipitation anomalies for the next week for the south. Mapped up above normal precipitation in the north is mainly being skewered, I think, by the very unsettled weather that we've got going on at the moment. I think it will dry up and warm up next week. There will be an improvement in the weather, but it's probably not going to last all that long. So for the terms of how this works out in terms of weather, let's have a look at the weather maps, and we can see that for Thursday the 21st of June we've got a nice ridge of high pressure there across the country, so it will settle down for a time next week. It will warm up, and as we go further out towards Friday the 22nd, that high pressure is starting to slip away to the east and low pressure is trying to come in off the Atlantic. Now, between those high pressure and low pressure, we may bring up some very warm air out of France, so it could warm up for a time at the end of next week, maybe with a bit of a plume and turn thundery, but it won't last very long. By Saturday the 23rd, we're bringing in a much more fresher, cooler airstream off the Atlantic, and the Atlantic is still driving the pattern here, albeit with a bit of a ridge still down in the south and going further out towards Monday the 25th. So this is 10 days away. We have got quite a nice ridge air across the country again, but low pressure is once again waiting in the Atlantic. And going to Tuesday the 26th of June, that low pressure is starting to come in off the Atlantic. So this is much more of a trough ridge type pattern rather than a constant low pressure. We will have a few days under the ridge, so it'll be settled for a few days, then we go into the trough, turn unsettled for a few days, and then back to the ridge again. Now, for the EastMWF model, well, this is a bit of a ridge of high pressure showing up here for the middle of next week. So again, I think we will settle things down a bit next week. And for Friday the 22nd, well, we're still under that ridge actually, although it's starting to move away to the east. There's below pressure out to the west, and as we go further out towards Monday the 25th, 10 days away, that low pressure has come across the country, turned it unsettled, and probably quite thundery for a time. And by this point, Monday the 25th, that low pressure started to move away to the east, and high pressure started to ridge back in from the west again. So, say it's a trough ridge type pattern, as opposed to constantly being under a trough or constantly being under a ridge. Now, for the Canadian model of GEM, we're under the ridge of high pressure there for Friday the 22nd. And this is the best model of the morning, I think, because by Monday the 25th, we've got a nice build of high pressure going on there, right over the top of the country. So if that's right, we are setting up an extended warm and dry pattern. But the Canadian model isn't the best model that's out there, and I think we have to be a bit cautious about that. I'm not sure that's quite right. So, how all this is going to work out? I think we are looking at an improvement in the weather if you want it to turn drier, warmer and more summery next week. We are going to get a few days at least of better weather next week. It will dry out. We will lose these stormy low pressure systems. And I say we'll have a few days of better weather, but I don't think we're seeing much evidence at the moment that that high pressure is going to last all that long. It probably turns unsettled for a time, and then may settle down again, and then turn unsettled again. And this could go on right to the end of June with a few days of better weather, followed by a few days of unsettled weather, and then back to the better weather again. So it's an improvement, most certainly, to what we've had through the first half of June. We are going to lose the very stormy weather, but it's not really settling down for an extended period, or not that I can see just at the moment, but certainly an improvement next week. Now, come back tomorrow, I'll be doing a 7-day forecast, but that's all for now.